Can you give me an example of some superstitions you have heard of?
Black cats are bad when they cross your path. The black cats.
Black cats, 7 years bad luck when you break a mirror.
Flies are lucky.
Not walking under a ladder. I mean, not walking over a crack on a board or something.
Are you superstitious?
Yeah.
What are you superstitious of? Like black cats, stuff like that?
Yeah, mirrors, breaking.
I'm really superstitious. I knock on wood. I knock on wood like every minute of my life.
Sometimes. It really depends. I would kind of say I was superstitious in some matters.
I guess to an extent.
Not at all.
No, I don't think I am. I mean, I try not to be.
Not at all.
Nah, like I see a black cat and like I won't think anything of it. I don't really believe in superstitions.
No, not really. I just feel if it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen. Doesn't matter what you do to prevent it.
Yeah, I believe in God. You know, I don't believe in superstitions. You know, there's no such thing as that.
Sometimes it can feel like our Catholic faith is more about rituals and routines than a personal connection with God.
When this happens, we can begin to wonder what it is we believe in and why.
We might start to wonder what holy water has to do with God, or why we bow in front of the altar.
And what about things like the rosary, or statues, or holy medals?
Is it faith or just superstition? And how can we tell the difference?
Distinguishing faith from superstition. That's what we'll be talking about today. Hi everyone, I'm Kristen.
And I'm Dylan.
And this is Real Faith TV.
The teens on the street were able to name a number of common superstitions,
with many admitting to being superstitious themselves.
We'll hear more from them a little later in the show, as well as meet our spotlight guest, Matthew Riedlinger, a seminarian studying to be a priest in the Diocese of Trenton. He'll help us identify the differences between faith and superstition.
But first, let's meet our studio guests and see what they have to say about this topic.
They are John, Daniela, Gina, Christina, Andrew, and Casey.
Are you superstitious at all? Like, are there any kinds of superstitions that cross your mind?
Sometimes I like knock on wood when someone says something, because I'm afraid it will jinx, so I just do it really quick. I just do it as a habit. I don't really think about it.
In sports sometimes, like lacrosse, you know, I kind of have a habit of, I guess it's more of a superstition of stringing a stick a different way, the same way, because I did really well that game or that practice. But no really like faith-related superstitions.
I'm too, like I fall into that, like if I say something, like knock on wood really quick.
For me, it's kind of like when I see black cat or whatever, I kind of just think, I don't even think about the superstition at all. I'm just like, hey, black cat, I want to go pet it, because I'm just a cat-loving person. So
I remember I was talking to some friends at school, and we were talking about how to sell a house, and they were like, oh, well, if you bury St. Joseph facing out from the street upside down, your house will sell that much faster. I was like, wow, I've never heard of that before.
I don't really consider myself superstitious, but like, I mean, I'll knock on wood to make my sister laugh, or I'll tell people who are in the theater with me, you know, break a leg, but I don't put that much stock in it myself. I don't really see what good it could do.
Yeah, there's tons of superstitions out there. The Roman philosopher Cicero once said, "Superstition is the baseless fear of the gods."
He meant that it's possible for people to hold beliefs that do not have a firm foundation.
Many times, people engage in behaviors out of an unfounded fear that their actions have a greater influence on the world around them.
It might seem arrogant to think that if you walk under a ladder, something horrible will happen.
To think that your small movements will shake the earth. But people still adopt these attitudes or superstitions.
Next, our spotlight guest Matthew will share with us some of the superstition he's familiar with.
And why he thinks such beliefs draw so much appeal.
Well, I think there are certain cultural things that we all fall into. For example, saying something and then knocking on wood real fast, you know, a door or a table or whatever. Do I put any trust or faith that, you know, it's not going to happen or going to happen by knocking on wood? No, but it's just one of those things that you do. And also when you see a black cat walk across, the superstition comes to mind, but I myself, I don't put any faith or trust in that. It's just a coincidence. I have in high school, friends who were athletes or whatever who would always wear the same pair of socks the entire wrestling season, which became very, very gross and nasty by January or February, since we were wrestling since November. That's just weird. But they swore that they would win or they would have the most takedowns if they wore this pair of socks. For myself, one thing that I used to do, which hasn't proven true, is I told myself if I had listened to Christian music on the radio or a CD or whatever, I wouldn't get pulled over by a cop. That didn't happen though, so. There's an appeal to superstitions, I think, because everybody wants to be part of something. greater than themselves. And so they think that by doing this, they're part of a tradition, they're part of this power, that they can avoid bad luck, avoid negative consequences if they simply do this. Almost like there's an outside force, that spirits are protecting them, that certain actions will automatically equal certain consequences. Superstitions, well, they put their faith and trust in things that are created, things that come from man, these silly superstitions that someone thought up long ago, and so we just avoid them, or we do them hoping to influence the outcomes.
Yeah, like what he was saying with culture things, there's a lot of superstitions that we've grown up with and seen on TV or heard from family members.
Yeah, I think that a lot of superstitions is kind of just like the old, like the Roman and Greek stories about the gods, where people would try to come up with these stories to explain things that happened that they had no explanation for, because like as humans, we want to feel like we have some kind of reasoning, some kind of control. So why do you guys think that people continue to believe in superstitions even though they're baseless?
And listening to Matt, he said something about we're longing to be a part of something greater than ourselves. And I think that humanness, that we want something that we can see and touch and feel, these superstitions give us that outlet to be like, oh, well, it must be because of this, because I can see this, instead of putting our faith in God.
For me, it's kind of like a habit. Like if I hear something good, I have to knock on wood real quick so it won't like jinx it. So I can't help myself with that.
I feel like a lot of the things is like people, if they, let's say they knock on wood and then it doesn't happen, and they're like, oh yeah, it works. Or like if a black cat like walks in front of their path and then like something bad happens and they're like, oh, it's true. So I feel like if it happens, then they believe like, yeah, this, it's like real.
Keep on doing it.
Yeah, and they keep on doing it.
Yeah, I agree with Keisha. I think it's just like a matter of habit, because once you do something a number of times, it's just going to become ingrained in your brain, and even if you don't attribute any kind of meaning to it. In the world of sports, superstitious rituals and objects are commonplace for both athletes and spectators.
A Major League Baseball player might win a game on a day when he forgot to shave.
He then decides to refrain from shaving all season because he's convinced it has something to do with the team's winning streak.
Fans can be just as unreasonable at times,
dressing up in complete athletic costume just to watch each game from home,
with the fear that if they don't, the team may lose.
Do you think certain rituals or objects can bring you luck?
That's what we asked the teens on the street.
Let's check it out.
Do you believe that certain objects bring you luck, or rituals or things like that?
I don't have anything like that.
No, I think that would be more like superstition.
I believe certain objects bring me luck. I'm really superstitious, actually.
When I see a penny, if it's heads up, I definitely will pick it up, but if it's heads down, I won't, and I feel like if I do, I'll have good luck the rest of the day.
I wear my rings every day because I feel like I'm gonna have a bad day if I don't wear my rings. Every day. It's like, I've had these 3 rings on for like 4 years, never take them off.
Before baseball games, I can't have 3 glasses of water, or else for some reason I just feel like I'm gonna do horrible.
I have the same routine when I come out of the shower every day, or else my day's gonna be bad.
Well, I always wear this necklace that I got here. I think it brings me good luck.
Just my cross.
Cross right here.
No, I don't really have no lucky boxers or anything like that. I mean, luck is just like, it just happens. You can't really, make it happen.
I don't believe in luck. I believe, you make your own luck. You make your own, well-being.
I don't really have anything that I'm attached to that really I'm like, oh well, I'm not going to win this game because I don't have my lucky bracelet on. I don't really believe in that. I just believe it's your ability to really bring out what you have.
In the 10 Commandments, God tells us, "You shall have no other gods before me."
In a way, superstitions are false gods. We take the power out of God's hands and assign it to a rabbit's foot, a lucky number, or even lucky socks.
The Catholic Catechism says, superstition, in some sense, represents a perverse excess of religion.
By this they mean that to assign a religious nature to everything and anything is not reasonable.
Next, Matthew talks with us about the conflict that exists between Christianity and superstition,
and how trust should always be in God, above all things.
The conflict between Christianity and superstition is that as Christians, following the first commandment, to love God above all things, he always has to be first and foremost. So to put our faith in a lucky rabbit's foot, a lucky pair of socks that we wear to our games, or to always have a certain ritual that we go to, not to shave before a big basketball game, things like that. Well, that's not putting your faith in God. That's putting your trust, your beliefs in some man-made practice, and well, that can merit nothing. These things are harmless in themselves, but when you start to trust them, when you start to trust these things that we do, rather than God, rather than trusting only in Jesus, that's where the problem comes in. Faith always points to God. God is the source. God is the one, the uncreated, the good, the beautiful. That's faith. Superstitions point to themselves. So when you do something, are you doing it because you have faith and trust and love of God? Or are you doing it because you think the object, the action, has power within itself?
Yeah, I know a lot of times me and my friends get caught up with like karma and who's done what to who and what's going to happen to them. But as Catholics, we know that that's not how it works. And God gave us free will. And we see that in life sometimes good stuff, bad stuff does happen to good people. But it's important to keep our faith in God, not any kind of karma or superstitions like that. So how about you guys? You guys put your faith in horoscopes or fortunes or anything like that sometimes instead of God?
I mean, like personally, I haven't really put my faith in any superstitions, but I always see kids, you know, they'll get the fortune cookies, you know, with their Chinese food, and they'll always look at the fortune, and it's so general that it can like relate to anybody, and your mind kind of just makes that connection, and it just makes you feel good. So I think they rely on that kind of.
Like when I go to the boardwalk or any carnival or whatever, do you know the games, like you can put your number, you can pick any number you want with the quarter. Like you put the quarter on the number, like 7, I'm gonna go with 7 because that's my lucky number, and you don't win. But it's like maybe every 10th time, maybe you win. But like it's something I used to do, but I'm realizing now it's like, hey, it's any other number. It's just gonna go by itself anyways. So.
I feel like when like people go get like the readings and like their fortune told to them, I feel like they like make it seem like it's like they make it happen. They get it read and then like their mind tells them like, oh, this is what's gonna happen, like self-fulfilling prophecy. Yeah. That. And like I feel like we make ourselves like believe it. It's not really what's gonna happen. And I don't know.
Yeah, because I used to do that when I read my horoscope. So one day I realized, like, let me see what happened if I read it at night instead of the morning. Some of this stuff happened. So that's when I, like, stopped believing in it.
Something that I do at night that a couple of friends told me about is examination of conscience night, just to go through the day and be like, oh, this is what has gone on my day, this is where I've seen God, this is what I've messed up on, and this is what I need to fix.
The Catechism warns that superstitions can affect the worship we offer the true God.
For example, when one gives an importance to practices which they believe to be magical.
And it's important to realize that this is true of all superstitious behavior.
Sometimes we assign these magical attributes to religious things.
We know people who pass around statues of saints or Mary to gain prosperity, or who use religious medals as a sort of good luck charm.
The fact is, statues are reminders to us of those who have lived holy lives and cannot bless us just by sitting on our dining room tables.
They can be an object to focus our attention on while we reflect on God's work in a saint's life.
Likewise, holy medals can be used to deepen our consciousness of God's grace in our daily lives.